Did you know Johnny Depp just directed a movie, and critics absolutely tore it to pieces? Hard to believe, right? The same Johnny Depp we've all grown up with. The man who brought Captain Jack Sparrow to life, who turned a pair of scissors into hands, who made Willy Wonka delightfully weird. He's been entertaining us for decades. And now, he stepped behind the camera to tell a story that clearly meant the world to him. But here's the sad part, when the movie finally came out, the critics were ready with their knives out. Some called it disappointing. Others called it messy. One even said it was, and I quote, a boring take on an exciting artist. Ouch. And yet, is it really as bad as they're saying? Or is this another one of those situations where critics just don't get it? You know that feeling when you work really hard on something? Maybe it's at your job, maybe it's a creative project, maybe it's even just trying to be there for your family. And instead of praise, all you hear is people picking it apart. Yeah. If you've ever felt that sting, you're going to understand what happened to Johnny here. So let's talk about this. Thanks for being here, by the way. Whether you're a die-hard Depp fan, someone who loves movies about complicated, messy people, or even just someone who roots for the underdog, this story is for you. Because today, I want to take you through what really happened with Johnny Depp's new movie. Why he made it. Why the critics were so harsh. And why, just maybe, it's worth your time anyway. So grab a snack, get comfortable, and let's take a closer look at Johnny's misunderstood little masterpiece. Alright, first things first. What is this movie even about? Johnny's film tells the story of a man named Amedeo Modigliani. He's not exactly a household name. In fact, a lot of people probably saw the title and had no idea who that was. But in his time, Modigliani was one of the most fascinating and troubled artists of the early 1900s. He was Italian, he was fiery, he was broke, and he was absolutely unwilling to compromise his art for anyone. He painted what he wanted, how he wanted, and he refused to bow to the trends of the time. You can already tell he was the kind of guy who made enemies just by being himself. And in a way, you can already see why Johnny was drawn to him. The movie doesn't try to tell his whole life story. Instead, it focuses on just 2 days. 48 hours when Modigliani is at his absolute lowest point. He's being hunted by the police. He's broke. He's desperate to sell his art. And he's clinging to the last scraps of his dignity and hope. It's a quiet kind of story. No explosions. No car chases. No big heroic moment. Just a man fighting for his legacy when everyone else seems ready to write him off. Now, that might sound like a recipe for a moving, powerful film. And in many ways, it is. But when the movie finally came out, critics weren't impressed. At all. They called it slow. They said the pacing was off. They said it lacked emotional punch. One reviewer even joked that a movie about an art rebel shouldn't feel so ordinary. That had to hurt. But here's the question. Are they right? Or are they missing the point? See, a lot of people went into this movie expecting something bigger. Louder. More like the Johnny Depp we're used to. The wild characters. The over-the-top flair. The fireworks. But this movie was never going to be that. It was never meant to be a blockbuster. It's not even the kind of movie that tries to please everyone. It's more like an art piece in itself. You have to stop. Slow down. Look at it closely to see what's really going on. And sometimes, critics aren't good at that. That doesn't mean the movie is perfect. No movie is. But maybe it deserves a little more love, or at least, a little more understanding, than it got. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Because for Johnny Depp, this wasn't just some random project he signed up for. This was personal. After all the lawsuits, the gossip, the cancelled projects, the years of having his personal life ripped apart in the media. Johnny knows what it feels like to be misunderstood. He knows what it feels like to have people look at you and say, he's done. He's over. So maybe, when he read Modigliani's story, he saw himself. A talented man, flawed, maybe even self-destructive at times, but still fighting to create something beautiful, even when the whole world seems against him. That's the kind of story that hits you in the gut. And maybe that's why Johnny felt like he had to tell it. Even if the critics didn't like it. Even if it meant risking more bad press. Because sometimes, you make art not for the applause, but just because you need to say something. And when you watch the movie through that lens. When you realize this isn't just about Modigliani, but also about Johnny himself, it takes on a whole new weight. That's why I don't think this is a movie you just skip because of some bad reviews. If you're a fan of Johnny. If you appreciate stories about flawed people trying to hold on to their dignity. If you've ever felt misunderstood yourself. Then this might just be a movie you'll connect with. Now here's a little tip if you do decide to watch it. Don't go in expecting a popcorn flick. Don't expect laughs and big action scenes. Instead, watch it like you'd walk through an art gallery. Take your time. Look at the details. Notice the lighting. The way a character's face tells the story even when they're not speaking. The quiet moments between the chaos. That's where the beauty really lives in this kind of film. Instead, watch it like you'd walk through an art gallery. Really. Take your time with it. Let it unfold at its own pace. Just like you'd stand in front of a painting and let your eyes wander over the brushstrokes, the shadows, the hidden little details you didn't see at first glance, give this film that same kind of quiet attention. Watch how the lighting shapes the mood, how a glance between two characters can say more than an entire page of dialogue, how silence can sometimes carry the heaviest weight. Because this movie doesn't grab you by the shoulders and yell its message. It whispers. It shows you things in those in-between moments. The way Modigliani sits alone in a smoky bar, staring at a blank canvas as though it's taunting him. The way his hands tremble when he tries to sell his work, pretending he's not desperate, even though you can see in his eyes he's breaking inside. You can see Johnny's own scars in those moments. It's almost impossible not to notice. There's something raw about the way it all plays out. You get the sense that Johnny isn't just telling Modigliani's story. He's also letting a little of his own pain bleed onto the screen. And maybe that's why the critics didn't get it. Because pain like that, quiet pain, is messy. It's not polished. It's not entertaining in the way we're used to. But it's real. And that's why you shouldn't walk into this movie expecting a happy ending, or some grand moment of redemption. This isn't a movie about winning. It never was. It's about something much harder than that. It's about surviving. About standing your ground when everyone around you thinks you're finished. About clinging to the tiny flame of who you are, even when the world is trying its hardest to snuff it out. That's what Modigliani did, and that's what Johnny's been doing too, in his own way. And if you've ever been through something like that yourself, if you've ever been judged unfairly, if you've ever felt like nobody saw the real you, if you've ever kept going even when nobody was cheering for you, then you know just how much strength that really takes. It's easy to celebrate someone when they're on top. When they're winning awards and breaking records. But it takes something else to watch someone at their lowest and still see their worth. And maybe that's what this movie is asking us to do. So yeah. I really do think that's something we could all use a little reminder of sometimes. That even when the world doesn't understand you, you're still allowed to be here. You're still allowed to create. You're still allowed to matter. So now I'm curious. Really? What do you think? Do you feel like the critics were too harsh on Johnny this time? Or do you agree with what they said? Are you planning to watch the movie now that you know what it's really about? Or are you still going to pass? Let me know down in the comments. I'd love to hear your thoughts, because at the end of the day, it's not just about what the critics think. It's about what it means to you. Because this isn't a movie about winning. It's a movie about surviving. About holding on to your sense of self even when everyone else thinks you're a failure. And honestly, that's something we could all use a little reminder of sometimes. So now I'm curious. What do you think? Do you feel like the critics were too harsh on Johnny this time? Or do you agree with them? Are you planning to watch the movie, or will you pass? Let me know in the comments. I'd really love to hear what you think. And hey, if you enjoyed hanging out here today, if this gave you a new perspective or even just made you curious about the movie, go ahead and tap that like button. It helps more than you know. And if you're not already subscribed, what are you waiting for? Hit that subscribe button so you don't miss the next video. We've got more stories like this coming soon, about the misfits, the rebels, the misunderstood geniuses who keep fighting even when the world tells them to stop. And if you want more Johnny Depp content right now, check out my video where I talk about his most underrated performances. Some of his best roles are ones nobody talks about anymore, and I think you'll find a new favorite in there. Thanks for being here today. Really. It means a lot. Remember, this is a place where we celebrate the fighters. The ones who keep creating even when nobody's clapping. The ones who don't quit. I'll see you next time.